Okay, let's see what we have here. MS sucks. A journal to track all of the bullshit. Okay, that's pretty funny. I like that already. I like the gold wrapping. That's pretty cool. All right. So what's this all about? MS sucks. A journal to track all the bullshit. Okay. So hey everybody, Cliff, Life with MS here. I've got someone very, very special I want to introduce you all to. He's been commenting on the channel for some time now, usually pretty funny stuff. I like the one where you were talking about throwing the coffee across the room with the spasming arm. Been there, done that. Anyway, this is Matt Baylor. And the reason he's on today is because he sent me something in the mail, which I thought is just super cool. It's something I talk about all the time in my other episodes. And it's about journaling your journey with MS. And just real briefly, in one of my previous episodes, I talk about how I had to prove my case out over 10 years. I had to record all my symptoms, what I was eating, how much sleep I was getting, how stressful my job was. And everybody's like, no, you just have anxiety and depression and blah, blah. And it wasn't until I started journaling I could really start seeing the bigger picture. And that ultimately is what led to me getting a real diagnosis and being able to talk my neurologist into prescribing an MRI. Before that, they were just throwing pills at me. And that's when we discovered I had pretty highly advanced multiple sclerosis in my spine, causing all kinds of issues, which I think a lot of people have that story. But anyway, so Matt, when you sent me this, it's called MS Sucks, and it's a journal. And I'm going to let you talk about it a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit about your journey to begin with?
Yeah, so probably about November 2003, I started with a hand trimmer, which is fun. It kind of comes and goes. Sometimes it's real bad, sometimes it's not too bad, but it makes it hard for typing. But anyway, I'm a disabled veteran. I was in the Marine Corps and had a back injury and have been dealing with degenerative disc disease for the past 20 some years. Chronic pain hasn't been new to me, but all these other little weird symptoms that you kind of didn't figure out that something was going on, you just kind of blame, oh, I'm getting older, or, oh, this might be a side effect from this other drug. And once I had an MRI, well, at the time, let me go back a little bit. At the time, I go to the Lebanon PA VA hospital for my healthcare, and they haven't had a neurologist of their own for quite a few years. So when I went there with the hand tremor, they sent me out on, they call it community care, and let me pick pretty much wherever I wanted to go. So I picked a hospital that was close by and start off, brain MRI, and they found the Dawson's fingers. And then they sent me back again for a cervical MRI, found more lesions, and then a thoracic MRI, found more lesions. And unfortunately, the neurologist there, pretty much all she knew about MS was when she graduated medical school in the 90s. Because I would bring up these symptoms, and it was always, nah, that's not from your MS. Like, I have severe leg cramps from the knees down. That's not your MS. Just drink more water. And I kind of got fed up with just drink more water and getting gaslighted. So in the meantime, at the end of that appointment, she essentially handed me like 15 or 20 drug company flyers and said, if you want to take a DMT, here's the info, here's some pamphlets. Go home and pick which one you want and let us know. And there was like zero explanation of, okay, this one does this one does that. Here's the risk with this one, nothing. I had to find that all my own. So it was doing a lot of, research and looking at clinical trials to see what would best work for me. And going through that process, I've heard everyone say, document everything, write it down. That way you can keep track. And I looked around for a journal that would be suitable. And there are a couple others out there for MS, but they're kind of basic. And one of my pet peeves with writing in journals is I hate like the traditional bound books that you have to hold open and then you walk away for a minute and it closes and you got to find your page again.
Right.
And I wanted something a little bit smaller because you want to lug it around, right? You want to take it to your doctor's appointments. That way you have everything there. And so I came up with my own version and uh, looked into getting it printed in bulk, but it was rather expensive. I think just to get 100 books printed, it would have been like $8,000. And no one's going to pay $80 for a journal, you know?
Right.
And I'm not trying to get rich off of it. I'm just trying to help others.
Right. And that's what I loved about the conversation you and I had over email. And also, I read some stuff on your website, and I thought this really aligns with what I'm trying to do with this YouTube channel. We're a community of people with MS. We're not clinicians. We're not specialists. We're just patients. And we're trying to navigate this disease, which is insanely simple and incredibly complex all at the same time. It's like this weird paradigm. And so we're all just trying to like figure out how we contribute to that journey. And if our journey cross paths with other people, how can we help them? And for me, it was YouTube. And for you, I think it's YouTube and this. And when I got this and I opened it up, it I got flashbacks. I thought about when I got that conversation with my neurologist who said, come back in 2 weeks, the thing of pamphlets and
Yeah.
decide what you want. And I remember one drug company, which I'm not going to say the name, but I'm sure everybody's going to know what I'm talking about. In their pamphlet was a book, a spiral bound book like this, a little journal about maybe a fourth of this. And I went through it and I'm like, what do they want me to do with this journal? And I looked through it. I thought, oh, that's interesting. And now I look back and I realized the people that made that journal never had MS. And it was like, it didn't ask the right questions and it didn't point to the right things. It was like a place for you to put your thoughts. But what's different about yours is this is in one of my episodes, I talk about my journal and the basically the book I took to my neurologist to say, hey, from an engineer's perspective, I'm broken. And here's my process of elimination and root cause analysis, right?
Right.
And this is a very similar thing, but I love it because it's written in a super snarky way. And I mean, it quite literally says a journal to track all the bullshit, because that's what we deal with every day. From the time we get out of bed to the time we go back to bed, and even when we're in bed, we're dealing with bullshit from MS, and only people with MS understand it. So it's created that way. And the categories you put in here are just so specific and so relevant that I just had to share this thing with the world. I know you didn't want to like go out there and put your face on video and all this stuff because you don't want this to be about you, but you have MS, and so it is about you. And what you've done is brilliant, and I love it. And so I wanted to share it with the world because I think it's going to help a lot of people, especially if they're in the process of being diagnosed or they've just been diagnosed and they're trying to figure out like, what questions do I need to be asking my neurologist, or what do I need to be tracking? And I'm in this 10 years now, and I'm still learning every day, and I'm still finding new questions every day. So to get someone else's perspective on what they're going through with their MS and what questions they're asking really lends a lot of gravity to the importance of writing things down and not putting it on your phone, because I don't want to sit there and flicking through my phone when I'm talking to my neurologist or doing that, because it's so distracting. But this, like, just fits in your backpack or whatever, and it's all right there. Or even better, I can hand it to my wife, who's my advocate when I go into these meetings, and she can be filling this stuff out because she can understand it, and she can be reading back from it because it's easy to navigate. And I found that to be really invaluable too, because can the person that's with you, your advocate, access the information? And we found with her cancer that I had to be her advocate because she was so overwhelmed. And with my MS, when we go into these meetings or these appointments, we are so overwhelmed. We are so stuck in the trenches with our own diseases and issues that we don't really see the big picture. At least I feel that way. And of course, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a clinician, I'm just a patient, and that's how I perceive this thing. But I have noticed life has gotten better in dealing with my issues when I have a good track record of where I've been and where I think I'm going. And so I'm just going to go through the book here, and I'm going to do screenshots so people can see this a little bit closer up. But it talks about, what is today's date? Stuff I might do today. When I went to bed. How was I when I was in sleep? When I was in bed? What kind of dreams and nightmares did I have? Now, for people that are just getting ready to go on a DMT, this dreams and nightmare things can be really interesting, right? Like I'm not a veteran. Thank you for your service, but I can only imagine that this journey lends itself to some level of PTSD because it's a complete life change. Like you now have got this label of being disabled. And while that's just a label, there's part of it's true. I mean, you're a square peg in the round hole of society, and that becomes very difficult. So I think like you look at the dreams and nightmares now. If I went back, let's say I had a year of these, and I went back and I thought, okay, I started a new DMT a year ago, and here were my dreams and nightmares. And my dreams and nightmares are very vivid around my MS. I got to tell you, there are days like in my dreams I can run and I can fly and I can do all this stuff I really can't do anymore in real life. And if I could go back and look at the stuff, I could see how far I've come. And like, wow, my dreams have really gone from being super negative and scary to like something more entertaining and enlightening. Like, and why is that? Am I getting more sleep? Am I eating better? Am I becoming more? Am I coming to terms with my condition and how I fit into the global picture? I think that's one of the issues that I face personally. And so to have something where I can back and look at that to see where I've been and where I'm going is really important. And that's one of the reasons I started the YouTube channel back in 2018 when I very first started Ogrevis. I'm like, okay, I have a sneaking suspicion this is going to be a huge journey. And I don't want to forget it all. But let's be honest, with our cog fog, we forget a lot of crap. And I go back and look at some of those old episodes and it's like, holy mackerel, I was thinking that. And so this is fantastic. And I love the idea that you realized the cost per unit was going to be just insurmountable at a low quantity. And so you did something about it. And I'm an inventor, I'm an engineer. I love the fact that you figured out the economics to make this work for the market and you did something about it. And that's why I wanted to talk about it, because MSers doing things to help other MSers. There's just like, there's so much more confusing and quite literally depressing news and information about MS out there. What are we doing on the front lines that are improving the quality of life? And this is one of those things. So I want to say thank you very much for A, sending it, B, bringing it to my attention, and letting us meet you and let people know this is out there. And I'm going to put a link in the description below where they can get this. This is not a paid promotion. I just thought Matt had a very, very cool thing here, and I wanted to share it with everybody. So let's go back to that. I've been talking a lot here. So how long ago did you start this, and what has your experience been overall with people giving you feedback? Have you sold many of them? Are there improvements coming in version 2 or any of that stuff?
Well, actually, I've sold one, I think, but I had just got it listed on Amazon and got a shopping cart set up on my website for it. And I just kind of finished putting that stuff together over the past few days.
Okay, perfect.
And you said about, not wanting to pull your phone out. I've had people say, well, why don't you make an app? I don't want to put all that into the phone, poking and then trying to fumble around in a doctor's appointment, right? But at the same time, I'm looking at creating an app that uses AI to where you can take a picture of your daily pages and AI will find trends
That's
and,
beautiful.
and kind of, help you. Hey, stupid, you ate French fries yesterday and you're not supposed to.
Right, right, right.
But yeah, I've shipped a bunch of them to Amazon using their fulfillment process, and then still printing some still just for anything that comes from the website itself.
That is fantastic. Okay, so after the recording, I'll get the link to the Amazon thing because I think this would be really cool, like stocking stuffer, right? Like to that
Yeah.
person, like what the hell do you get somebody that has MS in your family? You don't really understand what they're going through, but you want to support them.
Mhm.
I'm definitely going to get these for a few of my friends because I know they get wrapped around the axle with the apps that are out there and they're like, well, I can't log into anymore. I don't have my password or my phone crashed. It was all on there, blah, blah, blah. And I've got a stack of literally journals behind me where I just, for some reason, sorry, my mom's calling me. Hi, mom. She's in Germany right now.
Oh,
Um, yeah. So sorry about that.
right.
So yeah, could be a really cool present. And I like that you got, you put a flare ups section in there, which is huge. Like, what in the hell causes our flare ups? And it doesn't even matter who you talk to because it's so specific for each person. I think I've learned that. Like, I
Yeah.
know if I don't sleep well and if I eat like crap, I'm gonna pay the piper, and tomorrow's gonna hit me hard, right? Like, but I
Yeah.
didn't figure that out until I started writing everything down and starting to see those trends, like you're talking about with the AI identification stuff. Like this was 5 or 6 years ago when AI was just a movie by Steven Spielberg. It wasn't
Mhm.
necessarily a technology. So, we've got the flare ups in here. Um, how much water you drink, what's your mental roller coaster, how are you feeling on any given day? And believe it or not, if you stick with this and fill it out for 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day and go back and analyze it after a few months, I almost can guarantee if anybody's tries it, they're going to start seeing patterns, especially if they're newly diagnosed.
Right.
And that is like, I mean, this, for as random as this disease is, there are definitely specific parts of it that follow a trend, but unique to each person, right? Like
Right.
your trend is very different than mine, but we won't know that until we track it and figure out what it is. Like I've got a friend who has really bad MS in her brain, and um, she can hardly remember her kids' names on any given day. And she had to quit her Fortune 100 job. She was devastated, got divorced, did the whole thing, and just thought she was really a broken person. And then we went on a bike ride together. We did a 150-mile bike ride for MS in Austin, and which I didn't do 150 miles. I did 90 or something because my legs gave out. She's a phenomenal athlete with MS, but she can't remember where she started or needed to stop like these races, right? And I'm opposite. I can hardly bike 5 miles at this point because my fatigue is so bad and my legs are so bad, but I can still have a decent conversation with people. And it's just weird how this disease is so drastically different. And if you compared our two journals and our journeys, the journeys might look the same, but the outcomes could be very different. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting to have that data set. At least to me, I'm nerdy. I love data sets. This to me is a data set, right? Like, so, so again, thank you very much. This is just so cool, Matt. I appreciate it. Um, so we'll look for the app. I'll keep in contact with you. And, um, yeah. And again, thank you for your service. I've got a buddy who's, um, he's got a lot of traumatic brain injury. He was 11 Bravo, and they initially thought he had MS. And then I have a couple of friends. They're actually people subscribers on the channel. Um, that both had MS really bad, and it was put in their military medical record after MRI, but the doctors never told them until they got out of the service, which is crazy to me, right? Like,
That
I
is
can't even imagine, especially with the last 10 or 15 years, with all the stuff that's happened, to not know you have MS and have to go up what they're going up against. I mean, these guys were in Afghanistan, talk about in Iraq, heat fatigue. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would have been like, and not knowing that you're having your own experience with heat fatigue and MS in full
right.
battle rattle, right? Crazy. So, um, again, I appreciate your service, and
The
we will
VA
definitely get
has
this stuff out there.
the VA has two locations. They call it the MS Center of Excellence, which they can coordinate a lot of MS care with your local neurologist. But I just seen a new neurologist at the VA because they finally got one, and thankfully he has some experience with MS. But I'm still trying to start a DMT. I asked for Kesimpta, but the VA doesn't have that on our formulary list, and
Oh, really?
you need a waiver to get it, and you have to go through this checklist of different qualifications to see if they'll give it to you. And so far, that's been a denial for me. And so I think the alternative is going to be Briumvi.
Okay.
I was trying to avoid infusions, but I'm going to probably have to end up trying Briumvi for a year before I can switch.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry to hear that about the Kesimpta thing. You're hitting the red tape. We could have a whole conversation about that too. I've just gone through that. That it's incredibly frustrating, and it's just amazing what we have to deal with just
Yeah,
to
I
just to get what we need.
I found you really have to be your own advocate. You know more about your disease than anybody else. Even your doctors, you know what what causes, I ate this yesterday and feel crappy the next day, you know. So hopefully with a journal, people can kind of figure things out.
Yeah,
And
I think
oh,
that's really cool because I know when I started taking my journals into my neurology appointments, I discovered who was the right neurologist for me when I learned who was actually going to go through the journal and look at the stuff. There were a couple of providers that were like, well, I mean, that's not really important. What you're dealing with today is really important, and that's not true. Like, it's so specific to the person. And so finally, after 10 years, the person that sat down and said, yeah, I'm going to go through the 320 pages you have here, but we're going to do it together, and we're going to build a map and see what's really going on. And even then, he wasn't convinced until we got the MRI. So maybe my information wasn't good enough. But the point was, like, I had to build my case like I was on trial. Pretty sure I had MS because I had friends that had MS. And after a lot of no's, having it in writing and being able to convey all that information, a concise, nice little booklet right there, is what convinced him to write the script for the MRI and change the game completely. And I finally, a little late in the game, I finally got what I needed. But yeah, I don't think we can really press how important it is to document your journey, not only from educating your doctor's perspective, but also just to see where you've been and the things you can be proud of, and things you've accomplished um, with this disease. I often think we're an enlightened few, right? Like, we
right.
really know what problems are. I have people complaining about traffic in the morning, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm just happy I got out of bed.
I know,
You know,
right?
I'm just happy I didn't pee my pants before breakfast, and they're talking about being angry about a red light, and I'm like, it's perspective for sure. But to see where we start and where we can end up, and document that, and make it tangible is really really cool. So thank you again, and I'll keep in contact with you. I really want to know about your journey, and for everybody out there, I'm going to get the information about where you can get this, and put it in the description below. And also, I'm going to put in Matt's website, which I have right here, which is itreallydoes.com. And I don't know how you got that URL. You must know somebody somewhere, but that's amazing.
That was luck. I tried getting tons of variations of MS Sucks, and they're all taken by domain squatters that aren't doing anything with them. And then I just, out of the blue, I thought, okay, well, so how about a play on part of the part of the book, you know? And that was available. I'm like, okay, bye now.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Matt. Again, the journal is MS Sucks, a journal to track all the bullshit. And Matt, I will definitely be seeing your comments online and being in contact, and I'll be in contact with you. Um, and have a great holiday, buddy. Thank you so much
You too.
for showing up.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for all your videos. They've been helpful.
Oh, that's awesome. I love making them, and I love having fun with a disease that's otherwise kind of cruel. I mean, there's some laughable stuff about it, and if I can get a couple of giggles out of some people and we can learn something in the process, and then I think it's a win. I'm going to keep doing it. Matthew, thank you so much.
Yep, sure.
You have a good
Take care.
holiday, buddy.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.